นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ One of the reflections which helps us to become more mindful and heedful in daily life and can be used as a meditation or just a general reflection is the contemplation of death, the impermanence of life. When we're sitting here in a nice air-conditioned hall, the surroundings are peaceful, feel kind of safe, secure. And then the idea of death, the end of my life, seems far away. But one of the purposes of this meditation and recollection is to bring up the sense that life is very uncertain, unknown, and death could literally be a moment away. We don't know how long we've got, whether it's 1 day, 1 year, 50 years, whatever, we don't know. So say you're meditating during this retreat and your mind is just spinning on, proliferating about different things. And you would like to gain control of your mind, tame it, bring it under your control, but it just keeps thinking and thinking and thinking. Luang Por Chah suggested to hold your breath as a way to tame your mind. Literally stop breathing. When you hold your breath, very quickly the only thought that will be left in your mind is, when will I start breathing again? And if I don't breathe, what will happen? I'll probably die. So every other thought takes second place, doesn't it? When you have the thought, I want to live, I don't want to die, everything else takes second place. So it's a direct know your mind in the present moment, holding your breath, but also to see the temporary nature of all other thoughts. None of them matter. And you'll let go of them very quickly until you start breathing again. Once you start breathing again, well, it won't take long before you forget the fact that life is impermanent and you start going back to your normal trains of thought, planning, scheming, reacting, liking, disliking. But at any time you try this, it's a very effective way just to see the thought and break through whatever the stream of thought is at that time. When we contemplate death, it's bringing you to understand life, and it's bringing you to the present moment, making you very mindful and careful, as it gives you that perspective. You see how valuable life is when you realize how short it is and how it can be taken away from us. If we wanted to, and we could just sit here all afternoon discussing ways that people die. Different diseases, accidents, all kinds of things. Makes you realize that human life is quite fragile. We really don't know, we can't be sure how long we've got. The Buddha compared life to a drop of dew on a blade of grass in the morning. I don't know what it's like in Singapore, but where we live in the mountains of the sun comes up and those dewdrops disappear. So the Buddha compared life like a drop of dew gradually evaporates. We don't have long. And the older you get, the more you realize that, because the perception of time changes. When you're a child, you feel like you've got all the time in the world. In your youth, the Buddha pointed out, we tend to get intoxicated with youth. When we're young, we're strong, we feel good, look good, have all our ambitions and plans. But as you get older, the sense of time running out becomes more to the forefront of your thinking. And you've done all the things that you were going to do. Maybe you didn't do everything, but you'll have done a lot. And then the sense is that, there's less to do now. And the awareness of the impermanence of life becomes clearer to you. So sometimes, not always, but sometimes the older you get, the wiser you get. Just because you see reality, you see truth more clearly. You sober up from the intoxication with youth. But one result of reflecting on death, even if you're just quietly contemplating it, bringing it up into your thinking, is that it gives you a sense of urgency. The word the Buddha uses, samvega, sense of urgency that this is my chance to practice the Dhamma, make more good karma, learn the Dhamma, practice it. If I don't take my chance, it will be gone. My drop of dew will have evaporated, and that will be it, at least for this life. If you do a lot of mindfulness of breathing, you often realize, you can make every moment a moment for practicing mindfulness, realizing the Dhamma, waking up to the truth. And there's many moments in the day when you can be mindful of your breath, in many hours a day. And you can also practice mindfulness of breathing to the last moment of your life, if you're conscious. Could be very old and frail, but still follow the breath in, breath out, practicing mindfulness till the end. But to begin learning how to do that at the end would be challenging. And a lot of Buddhists wait until the last minute. I guess they're like the kids who do their homework at the school gate before the lessons start, before they go in. They're doing it on the bus or right at the gate. Some Buddhists are asking to learn how to meditate on their deathbed. Better late than never, but at the same time, you're not in the best situation to learn and try something new if you're very close to your death. Physically, you may not be very strong. Mentally, your faculties are declining, your memory may be going. And your mind will be full of habits that you picked up through your life. So to start learning to be mindful and reflect on Dhamma right at the end, everything is possible. And we've read probably in the time of the Buddha, you might have read about those people who were enlightened right at the moment of their death. People love to ask, is it your last thought that matters as far as rebirth goes, and what happens to your consciousness after you die? Is it all dependent on that last moment? So the ones who like to play the lottery and gamble, they're gambling on their last moment. At least I've got to make that last moment a good one. have a wholesome thought, so they ask, what do I do? How do I practice at the end of life with that last moment? But we don't know, do we? We don't know when that last moment will come. And very difficult to guarantee exactly what you'll be thinking and what will be going on in your mind at that last moment, whenever it is. Better to focus on the here and now, like we're doing here at this retreat. You don't know how long you've got, you don't know when your last moment will be, but if you are practicing the Dhamma now, that's something you can guarantee and be sure about. If you're mindful of your breath right now, at least you know at this moment you're bringing up skillful qualities of mind. At this moment you're keeping precepts, you're not hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself, you're very peaceful, composed, mindful. So the present moment is surely much more important than some imaginary moment at the end of your life, way off in the distance. And where does the future come from anyway? It comes from the present, right here, right now. The future is the product of the present is the product of the past. But we always have the opportunity to influence our future by creating good karma in the present. The teaching on karma is all about cause and result, cause and effect. Good cause, good result. So if at this moment you're practicing, keeping precepts, you have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, you're putting effort into being mindful, you're reflecting on the impermanent nature of conditions, body, mind, then you're doing something very, very good at this moment. And that's what matters. So reflecting on death can be a very effective way to help you cut through some of this mental proliferation, distraction, even sleepiness. If you thought there's some danger around, you might be about to die, or you probably wouldn't be falling asleep. It cuts through, the reflection on death cuts through a lot of frivolous thinking, idle chatter, doubt, even worry. You might think, reflecting on impermanence and death might bring up more worry and more anxiety. But if you focus your mind down on the idea of death, you realize a lot of worry is totally pointless. It doesn't matter anyway. They asked one monk I know, they said, what would you do if this was the last day of your life? He said, I'd probably just be worried whether I left my kuti tidy or not. I wouldn't want them to find an untidy kuti if I died. We've always got unfinished business, but generally speaking, a lot of our worries are about stuff that doesn't matter anymore, does it? Unnecessary worries. If you use the recollection of death, we call that marananusati, as a meditation, you might just think it through first. What does death mean to me? What would it mean if this was the last day of my life? What would that mean? You think it through as a way to familiarize yourself with the theme of death, impermanence. You think it through, it'd mean this body would end and then I'd separate from family, friends, leave everything behind. As far as what happens at death, couldn't be sure. If we follow the teachings of the Buddha, well, there'll be the breakup of the physical body, that just goes back to the elements. And the mind goes according to consciousness and according to karma into another realm, another birth. So you familiarize yourself with the concept of death first, just thinking it through, and then maybe develop one word or one phrase to focus your mind on that symbolizes death to you as a meditation object. So the word marananusati, a recollection of death, or keeping death in mind. You could take the word maranang, death, maranang, 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 or you could say it in your own language, whatever your own language is, whatever words suit you. Death, 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 or I will die for sure, or death is certain. And you just quietly recite that to yourself as a way to cut through all the mental proliferation, the desires, the worries, everything. Many meditators since the time of the Buddha have done this. The idea is you're cutting through mental proliferation, which brightens the mind, because you're bringing up mindfulness. From that mindfulness, you gain samadhi, some joy, some piti and sukha, happiness, contentment. So even though in the normal way of thinking, you say death is a depressing subject, we don't normally like to talk about it, think about it. If you talk about death too much, people say, oh, don't say that, it'll happen. If you talk about it, it must happen quicker. But here we're doing it in a very mature way, using it as a way to train the mind to let go. Because death is letting go, isn't it? And we have to learn to let go at death. But you keep reciting your phrase, your word. It's a way to keep your mind in the present moment and cut through all this mental proliferation, endless thinking, worrying that we're caught up in. You could ask yourself, what do you take with you when you die? As we know, it's very obvious we can't take the body with us. This body will go. Maybe donate it to science. You become a skeleton hanging up in a cupboard in the university somewhere. You could donate your body, donate your organs, keep someone else alive. That's a nice thought. Probably the majority of people just cremated, so the body just becomes ashes, and maybe your children argue where you're going to store the ashes, or tip the ashes up on the mountain, in the sea, in the river, keep it on the shelf. For the physical side of life, that's all it is, isn't it? You just have to let go, and the body becomes ashes, or buried, or given to science. All your possessions go to other people. You don't have to worry about them anymore. So then there's the mind. So what do you take with you in your mind? This is another reason why we're practicing. We're cultivating the inner treasures and wealth of the mind, the good qualities that we can cultivate as human beings. The Buddha talked about noble treasure or noble wealth. Number one would be saddha, faith. Faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, the Sangha. Faith that Nibbana is true, that the Buddha taught a way to reach the deathless, the end of suffering. It is true. just preserving your faith through your life means you have this enormous store of wealth in your heart. Because when you have faith, you have sattha, you have confidence. That's like the energy that leads us to practice. If your faith is weak, well, maybe your mind won't be very set on practice. You'll waver. So one of the aims of the practice is to develop strong and unwavering faith, confidence in the Buddha, in the enlightenment of the Buddha, in the Dhamma, the truth of the Dhamma, and the path of practice. And also faith in yourself as a human being that you can practice what the Buddha taught. And he said he wouldn't teach things that people can't practice. There'd be no point. So the Buddha was encouraging us to do things that we can do. How do we keep our faith and increase our faith? Well, listening to Dhamma, probably number one. Reading Dhamma, listening to Dhamma, which is more easy than ever with all the digital help we have now, YouTube, internet, access to teachers, retreats, visiting teachers, coming here, we go to visit teachers. All of this can reinforce and support the arising of faith. With faith we get energy, we get patience, we get energy, it leads on to all kinds of other good qualities, so that's why it's a noble treasure. Can't be stolen, can't be flooded out or destroyed by fire or war or any of those things. If once you have it, faith as a treasure, it's really yours. And it will go into your next life with you if you haven't reached Nibbana yet. Someone was asking me that earlier. It's such a common question. How do I keep my faith in Buddhism? So many other people seem to drop away. Well, it is something you have to keep returning to and cultivating until it's established. It's something you have to keep bringing up, nourishing. But it will, if you keep practicing the Dhamma, your faith turns from just being mere belief into personal experience. So you're not just believing, say, the word of the Buddha and what others have taught you, but you start to see and experience and know for yourself from your practice. And this is what we call realization as well. When you have realization, say you have a stressful state of mind, it could even be today, you're sitting here meditating and you're getting caught into some worry, negativity, some anger, but you manage to bring up the mindfulness because you have faith, put effort into maintaining, bringing up the mindfulness, and you see those thoughts disappear and fade out from your mind during the course of one meditation session, for example. And they're gone. And you know, oh, I'm free from that worry or that anger or whatever it was. And then you have a little bit of realization at that moment, and you can say, this practice does work. I was so worried before, so upset, so angry, so obsessed with whatever it was. Now it's gone and I've seen it disappear. Then your faith starts to merge with understanding, wisdom, panya. And that's another of these noble treasures. Wisdom means the kind of understanding that stays with you. So it's not just dependent on memory. As we know, memory is a bit unreliable. Right? As you get older, you realize you can't remember anything you learned at school or college or university or all kinds of things you learned earlier in your life, you realize, where's all that gone? Your memory is impermanent. But wisdom is deeper, more profound than that. It's understanding that stays with you. And it has a purifying effect on your thinking, or your attitude, the way you understand things and look at things. Another word for wisdom is samadhi, right view. As you practice, you develop right view. It becomes stronger and clearer in your thinking, in your way of looking at things. And again, it can't be taken away by external conditions. If you have right view established based on your experience in practice, it's not just going to disappear just because someone else says something, or because you go through a storm, or the economy crashes, or there's a flooding, or anything like that. Nothing can take away right view other than wrong view. When you get caught into wrong view, wrong thinking. But once right view is established, or wisdom is established, that stays with you. It becomes your treasure, your noble treasure. It can't be taken away by illness. So say you've been practicing this meditation, listening to Dhamma, you understand that this body is an impermanent thing, it's changing. Feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, they come and go, they arise, they pass away. Thoughts arise, pass away. You've seen that through your experience. That becomes some wisdom and some right view, the way you look at yourself. And nobody can take that away. And it will help you to either clear up suffering when it arises, or actually stop suffering arising in the first place. And maybe something happens in your day. Something goes wrong, you make a mistake, or something unfortunate happens, and you're about to become upset, and then you say, no, this is just one of those things. I'm not going to get caught up into an angry reaction or feel sad about this. I have to accept it. It's just one of those things that happen. And you prevent suffering arising in your mind because you know everything is impermanent. Different experiences happen even when you make a mistake. I made a mistake, an error of judgment, or I wasn't very mindful, or I didn't know something, so I made the wrong choice in that situation. But you accept it rather than thinking all kinds of suffering and worrying about it, feeling guilty about it, bashing yourself. You just know in that situation, this is the way it is. I have to accept it. Because the alternative is if you dwell in suffering, you start feeling angry to yourself, or blaming someone else, or just feeling bad about this mistake you made, for example. It doesn't help anyone. You're just suffering unnecessarily, and you're not learning from it. Your mistakes, problems that arise can be used to learn from, or they just become another kind of cause of self-punishment, and we just keep remembering them and feeling bad. And this might be an example of how wisdom grows in your practice and helps you to look after your peace of mind, prevents you from dwelling on the past with negativity, blaming other people. You say it's somebody else in your life has done something wrong, they made a mistake, they did something harmful, wrong. When we don't have wisdom, what do? We just keep thinking about it. They shouldn't have done this, why did they do that? Blaming them, remembering their faults, and we feel miserable. Sometimes we have to pause and say, these thoughts of anguish or unhappiness are my thoughts, not their thoughts. They may have made a mistake or done something wrong, or hurt you, or hurt someone else. But the thoughts I'm experiencing are my thoughts. I'm doing it to myself. And when you see that, you have to teach yourself to let go, maybe to change. Look for the good in the situation. If it's another person, you might forgive them by seeing that they've done many good things and they've made this mistake now, but that doesn't cancel out the good that they've done, and you focus your mind on the good rather than getting stuck in what is wrong or what's at fault. It could be a person, a group of people, or it could be yourself. If you only think of your faults and your weaknesses, you'll be very unhappy quite quickly. And your mind goes downhill very quickly. But if you have some wisdom and understanding, you say, okay, I've made this mistake, or I have this problem, this weakness, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'll accept it and move on, focus on things that are more positive. That's what we call wisdom. So faith and wisdom come together and support each other. The wisdom stops you having faith in the wrong things or getting attached to faith to the point where you're blinded by it. But faith gives you a lot of energy to support your practice so that genuine wisdom can arise. Your wisdom itself often starts as just hearing a lot of things, reading a lot of things, getting a lot of knowledge. But if it's not guided by faith, sometimes wisdom itself is not yet the wisdom of right view, it's just knowledge. And it can be used to make bad karma, to turn on ourselves, turn on other people, to see what's wrong in the world. So faith and wisdom, they balance each other in life. As you develop the practice, hopefully your right view starts to come up. You understand more clearly what is good karma, what is bad karma. You can separate that out in your own thinking, your own actions. You recognize what is real goodness in the world. And the Buddha gave us clues. He said, well, when right view arises, you understand that practicing generosity is a valuable thing. It helps us to let go of stinginess and possessiveness, and it benefits many other people when we practice generosity, whether it's a small amount or a large amount. It leads on to good things, but it's valuable. Some people believe generosity is a waste of time, no point helping others. I work, earn money, it's all mine. I don't care about other people. But all of us need to practice more generosity, and it actually brings us a lot of joy. But if you have wrong view, you might not see that, you might not realize that. Or keeping precepts, like you're keeping 8 precepts. You may believe that it's a waste of time to keep precepts and do what you want, doesn't matter. Live for the moment. If you're hurting other people, it doesn't matter, we all have to die anyway. We have all our excuses, but a lot of them are coming from wrong view, wrong understanding. So these are the kinds of fruits of the practice, the faith and the wisdom that comes up through your experience, and then they stay with you. They kind of become like guardians that keep you out of trouble. If you've been meditating and you'll notice when, say, you do something more unwholesome, unskillful, you say something that hurts someone else's feelings, or you do something that's more selfish, as you meditate, it will tend to come up. Without trying, it will just come up as a memory, or you'll think it through. There'll be maybe some feelings of regret, and you'll see karma at work, and you'll say, oh, it wasn't worth doing that. I don't feel good about it. Next time would be better not to say that, not to do that. As you meditate, that kind of understanding often comes up quite automatically. You don't have to try or think a lot, because you're naturally taking more care of your mind. You're being more mindful, and you're learning the Dhamma, bringing up mindfulness, you're keeping precepts, you're in a peaceful situation. Well, this will reveal or show to you where your thinking or actions in the past have gone wrong. Sometimes it might just be a memory of a past incident. You see yourself saying or doing something that made some bad karma, and then you realize, oh, that was a mistake. And the result of that is you become more careful. In Buddhism, we call this hiriotapa, sense of shame based on understanding what is good and bad karma, and then a fear of the consequences of making bad karma, because you know it will come back on you and hurt you. These are also treasures of the mind. These are qualities that protect, look after the mind. They're called the guardians of the world. So like having your own guardian angel. And you see in society, when society, like, you see all the headlines these days, they say, oh, the humanity of the world is disappearing, human beings are behaving really bad to each other. Well, that may be true in certain parts of the world, but I'm not sure it's anything new. Humans have been doing both good and evil things for a long time. But when humans do start to treat each other really badly, the hiriotapa has disappeared. It's gone, isn't it? You can do anything, and usually it's in a war zone, that kind of situation. It's where all the constraints of society and all the normal kind of good qualities disappear, and then people can hurt each other and do terrible things because the hiriotapa is maybe disappeared temporarily. They may have had it before, they may gain it back again later, but during a conflict, or it could be just a conflict between two people or two groups of people, like a war, but the hiriotapa disappears. So people can do the most horrible things to each other. When you're meditating, you see that, don't you? You see there's a certain quality in your mind that says, oh, that would be too bad, that would be evil, I couldn't do that. Even if the thought pops into your mind, which it does sometimes, when you're remembering some injustice you suffered and you want revenge, maybe just as a thought, the thought comes up, oh, I want to get them back, they hurt me. But because you're in this situation meditating, quickly the right view, the wisdom, and the hiriotapa will come in and say, but that would only make more bad karma. It would be hurting me, it would be hurting them. It's not the way to deal with this. And so you let that more extreme evil thought that's come up, you let it go. And then it's not harmful to anyone. You've treated it properly. So with right view, with wisdom, we also gain hiriotapa. These qualities will just keep looking after your mind and then help you make wise decisions in different parts of your life. You know, like the guy in the traffic jam was telling me when he was parked at the red light, doing nothing wrong at all, minding his business, and a car hit him from behind, smashed into his car. He was not too hurt, he just had a little bit of whiplash, but his car was ruined and he needed his car for his living because his job involved driving around to different places every day. So his first thought was, somebody's just smashed into my car, I wasn't doing anything wrong, now I won't be able to do my job, this person has taken my livelihood away from me, this person is almost like killing me in this situation, I hate them. That was his first reaction. You might say a normal reaction. But then his second reaction was, hold on, this is really, I hate them, I wish they were dead kind of thought. And then he was thinking, this is maybe not a good way of thinking. And then he thought of the monastery, the monks, the teachings of the Buddha. He said, all my life the monks have been teaching me that everything is impermanent. My car is impermanent. Now I am seeing my car is impermanent. Life is uncertain. I didn't predict this would happen. All of this was very quick, within a matter of a few moments. He had this realization, his car is impermanent, I might as well just accept what's happened and let go of my anger, not follow this angry reaction. So it's a mixture of mindfulness, hiriotapa, right view, all coming up at that moment when he's under pressure, stressed because something unfortunate has happened. Then the person who crashed into him was a lady. She got out of her car and she was very timid. She was a medical doctor, just made a mistake, hadn't braked her car in time. She got out, came very timidly walking around to him, to where he was sitting. And she knocked on the door and he turned to her with a big smile. And she was so relieved. She said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're smiling." And she apologized. She said, "This was totally my fault, I accept that, but I'm so glad that you're smiling, you're reasonable. How come you're smiling?" She was intrigued. And the man said, "Yeah, a moment ago I was full of rage because I need my car and you've just destroyed my car. But I'm Buddhist and I meditate and I just reflected, everything is impermanent, everything is uncertain, this car is uncertain. And there's no point hanging on to anguish because what's happened has happened. The anguish doesn't change anything, it doesn't improve anything. So I'm not going to get angry." And the doctor said, "Oh, I'm so grateful I crashed into you." And then she said, "Where do you learn meditation? I want to learn." So the best advert for meditation you could have, somebody who's in a situation who would normally get angry but didn't, or they got angry but then they restrained it because they had right view, mindfulness, hiri-ottappa. That's how it goes, isn't it? You practice these teachings, some of them go into your heart and then they're ready for the situation that you can't predict. The uncertain situation comes up, but you respond in the right way in that situation. You may even impress someone else that you're doing something very good. Someone who's in the right frame of mind might see it or know it. But what's going on in your mind mentally is these qualities that we're developing right now, some of them will stick. Little by little they stay there and they start working for you, for your advantage, keeping your mind free from suffering, or if suffering arises, helping you to abandon the suffering. And this is the point of the Buddhist practice. The Buddha said, "I teach suffering and the end of suffering." So the Buddha never taught us to hold on to grudges and revenge and want to hurt other people, hurt ourselves. Don't dwell on the past with grief and sadness. Accept things that happen, they happen. It doesn't mean to say to be careless and not care. You still have to be responsible for your actions, and sometimes we have to know when we've made a mistake, we apologize, we do the right thing. But in your mind, not to dwell with sadness or grief about things when things go wrong or you don't get what you want. And the same for the future. Don't endlessly expect the future to bring you exactly what you want. A lot of the time we're hoping and expecting this and that to happen in the future. When this happens, then everything's going to be good. Some meditators, you talk to them and say how things are going, and they say, "Oh, just coming together. My life is just coming together. Just a little bit more, and it will all be good." You see them a year later. "How's it going?" "Oh, it's just coming together." And for the next sort of 10 years, it's always just coming together, because they're always thinking of the future and hoping for that little break, that little improvement. Or some people are always seeing the worst in the future. The anxiety, the worry, the worriers. What if this happens? What if that happens? Always seeing the negative outcome, sticking with that, and sure this will happen. The world is going to end. My life is going down the drain. What do we do? What do we do? There's the worriers. So the Buddha encouraged us to come back to the present moment over and over again. If you're planning the future, then plan it in the present moment, but be aware you're in the present moment and those plans are uncertain. Yeah. Again, it's wisdom, isn't it? When you make your plan and you talk about your plan with someone and you're making those plans, never depart from the perception of impermanence. This may happen. We may meet tomorrow for the next day of the retreat, or we may not. Next year you may go on holiday wherever you're planning, or you may not. You just never know, do you? What life will bring you. So it doesn't. The Buddha didn't say don't make any plans, but be aware that things change. You can never imagine the next moment and the next day of your life exactly as it will be. Impossible. Too many factors, too many uncertainties. That's why the astrologer doesn't like the meditator. Because the meditator can change things quite quickly. And sometimes the astrologer can't keep up with them. This is where we learn. We learn from the present moment by paying attention, bringing up the mindfulness, the clear comprehension, but also using wisdom techniques. We might call this vipassana meditation, or that part of meditation where you're reflecting on the three characteristics: uncertainty. Because things are uncertain, they're not reliable, they're not satisfactory. They're constantly changing, degrading, disappearing. So they're dukkha. Because things are impermanent, they arise, pass away according to causes and conditions. They're not a self. They're not a self that is just sitting there existing. It's not that there's nothing there, but what is there, this body, this mind, is subject to causes and conditions arising away and passing away. So there's nothing fixed or permanent there. These are what we call the three characteristics. And they bring us wisdom. Again, they bring us the noble treasure, this internal treasure of wisdom and understanding. Oh, it's impermanent, just like the guy driving the car. Oh, cars are impermanent. You probably get more angry in Singapore. You say, oh, I paid my $100,000 for my certificate and now they've gone and crashed my car. Oh, another $100,000 down the drain. You'd probably get more angry, wouldn't you? But it's all impermanent. You think about it, this body is impermanent. If you keep focusing on that, everything you can do and have with this body, all our sense contact is impermanent, unreliable. But the right view that you can develop that sees that, that knows that, is more dependable. That's your refuge. That's your Dhamma. One who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. One who knows the Dhamma knows the Buddha. One who knows the Buddha knows the Dhamma. Right view and right understanding is going to be much more reliable for you. So it's a true wealth, a true treasure, noble treasure. So maybe I'll leave the Dhamma talk here, and after this we have another session of sitting meditation, and following that will be walking meditation. So both in these sessions, focus coming back to the basic practice of bringing up the mindfulness, using your meditation objects, focusing on the breath perhaps when you're sitting. Be patient with the hindrances, the wandering mind, the sleepiness, the tiredness, the pain, but also use some of the wisdom to help you. It's impermanent, isn't it? You know, pain comes and goes. Already some of you have been feeling pain and then noticed the pain disappeared. Or some of you were sitting there without pain, fully blissed out, and then the pain did come afterwards. It goes both ways, doesn't it? It disappears and it comes back, and then it disappears again. So use some wisdom. Contemplate the impermanent nature, changing nature of the body, feelings, thoughts, mental states. So we can carry on sitting until 3:30, and then there'll be some time for walking meditation.
Andameyang Dhammakatthaya Satukara Tatamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami